All right, welcome to Tell Me What to Think and Week Thoughts. How are you, Charles?
Okay. Been depressed about some terrible videos I've been watching this morning. The massive starfish die-off in Britain and the diver in Bali who was swimming through the plastic.
Well, that does sound terrible. Environmental disasters are not my normal morning pick-me-ups.
Yeah.
I just before we get into it, I've been told by some of our DNC-approved, high-priced consulting firms that we deal with, Charles, that we should be telling people to rate and review us and subscribe and on all platforms, iTunes, which we are now on, Google, Stitcher, whatever else we're on. Sometimes it's
Podcast Addict.
Yeah, that's one.
And I think this week we'll try to make them.
Go ahead.
I was going to say this week we might try to make the migration onto YouTube as well.
Oh yeah, we should get around to that. But yeah. So big news for the pod. We're on iTunes. Apple sucks. I hate it.
So terrible.
It's so frustrating. But yeah. So we did that. So that was $500,000 well spent on that consulting firm to tell us to do that. Speaking of Democrats, but in a more positive light, we're recording on March 6th, and yesterday the official DACA extension thing ended, and so there were some, at least in Wisconsin's 1st District here, in Racine, my hometown, there were some protests yesterday in front of Paul Ryan's constituent office. Which I actually was just near the other day when I was going to see Iron Stash speak a weekend or so ago. And, so the two main Democratic people running to take down...
Is there anyone else running? I thought it was just them two.
I figure there's always, some crazy people, but maybe not.
I'm pretty sure they ran Doc Thomas out of town.
Okay, so it's just those two. And so, yeah, Iron Stash, Randy Bryce... and Kathy Myers both were arrested yesterday protesting, which I think is super cool. Not sure.
And the Working Families Party has also already set up a, is it Patreon or GoFundMe, but some kind of resource that you can donate to help pay off the people who got the fines of the people who got arrested.
Can you explain to listeners who aren't from Wisconsin, or maybe those who are from Wisconsin, but at least the ones who aren't, what the Workers' Family Party is?
Workers' Families Party, from my understanding, is like a alternate liberal party that's more populist and progressive than the Democratic mainstream.
But they still put up candidates who would be running as Democrats.
Well, there's only two parties to run in.
Yeah.
If you tried to have a primary for the Workers' Families Party, that even if they did get ultimately on the ballot, they wouldn't probably get more than 2% of the vote. Even with Iron Stash's fame. I think I have seen, actually, on a ballot before someone listed as Workers' Family Party. But,
I don't know logistically how this is, but they essentially overlap with Democratic Party. So, at that rally I went to, there were some people who kind of identified themselves as Workers' Family Party members, including one woman who was a founder and brought her baby on stage, which was, I think, weird, but... whatever.
Well, in Minnesota, they don't even have a regular Democrat party. The Democrat affiliate is the Minnesota Working Families Party.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up, actually. Yeah, I mean, I think you see this around the country with local parties in certain states, probably getting together to address more state issues that are, I assume, not being addressed by the broader party. But anyway, so, yeah, that was really cool in Racine. And, I mean, surprise, surprise, by the way, spoiler alert, nothing was done about DACA yesterday.
And he tweeted about it at least once that I saw, basically giving Democrats the middle finger for, not doing something when he was the one with the power and the ability to do anything and started this whole problem to begin with.
He is...
Sorry.
No. He is the king of having his cake and eating it, too. He plays as a race-baiting, anti-immigration guy, and then when there's an immigration thing that shows popularity, he pretends to be for it and blames the pro-immigration party, who he critiques for being pro-immigration, for not passing it, even though they're in the minority. I mean, it's astonishingly just like he is playing both sides. I don't know if he's successful at it. I mean, that's debatable.
It's like
but
Trump and his best friend, probably John Kelly, beating up on someone beating up on two different people, and then Trump blaming the guy that he's beating up for the guy that John Kelly is beating up. If that makes any sense.
No, but neither does the whole thing. You can't make it make sense.
Right.
The fact that didn't make sense to me is perfectly representative of the situation. Because, right? He should be, like, fighting against DACA, theoretically. Like
or he
openly.
Should be fighting for it because he has so many illegal immigrants working in his Mar-a-Lago and other resorts.
Yeah, well, maybe this is a little corruption thing, you know. A little helping the business out. So then, so further speaking of small to mid-size Wisconsin cities or towns, you have you wanted to talk about Beloit. I don't even know what you're.
Oh shit! That reminds me. Hang on. Let me pause the recording. I gotta go get this newspaper. I'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, so every week we get this publication, Wisconsin, Illinois State Line News, on my front doorstep that I mostly disregard. Our executive producer reads it just because she loves to look at deals. But, I was reading it. Well, she was reading it and showed me this interesting guest opinion in the perspectives page from Diane Greenlee, the Town of Beloit chairwoman. Okay, so a couple of years ago, the town of Beloit filed with, who is it? The Wisconsin... Well, whatever Wisconsin administrative bureaucratic body that is in charge of town charters.
I can pretend you said it, and I already forgot it anyway.
Yeah, so... This happened, about 2 years ago? And since then, talks between the town of Beloit and the city of Beloit over, like, boundaries and other issues is basically broken down entirely. And I guess fighting a propaganda war, Miss Greenlee, I assume Mrs. Greenlee, judging from her age, put this piece out. Town of Beloit Incorporation would strengthen entire region. And she goes on to write about, I don't know, maybe somewhere between 700 and 1,000 words. With, such thing, with great tidbits like, incorporation will strengthen the town's ability to continue to provide high level of services to our residents and our neighbors.
Oh.
So this whole thing is just a huge, huge land grab.
By the town.
And in very, very specific interests. I know we've mentioned her on this podcast before, but this has the fingerprints of Diane Hendricks all over it.
And Diane Hendricks is, reminding them,
she's the second wealthiest person in Wisconsin. She is a ideologically conservative, like a Tea Party supporter.
And her now deceased husband started ABC Supply, which I believe is a national...
a national logistics company, basically.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, don't they kind of do, like, it's like Home Depot, but for businesses?
Yeah,
I mean, it's like...
for contractors.
Yeah, and it's like repair stuff and equipment and all that. And I think is she the richest woman in the country?
Maybe. I bet Betsy DeVos is probably richer.
Oprah's probably up there too. Anyway,
yeah.
Doesn't she's rich.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's trying to make a land grab for...
Well, the town of Beloit. One thing that I noticed about this article is that Miss Greenlee, in the third paragraph, lists, throughout its history, our town is involved in an autonomous, robust, full-service community with its own police, fire, EMT, administrative, community development, sewer, and public works services. She goes through this entire article and doesn't say the word schools once. Which kind of is revealing to me, because that's basically what a lot of this is about.
Mm-hmm.
The town of Beloit wants to be able to, shall we say, control the demographics of their school.
Oh, so they're trying to not be a part of the
city of Beloit and its
school
demographic curve. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's... I assume this is common around the country, but I mean, I've seen things like this in Wisconsin, for sure.
In Birmingham, what was it? Birmingham, Alabama, all of its suburbs, incorporated themselves for exactly this reason, so they wouldn't have any outside control over their school. Where's the... Yeah, there's a line in here, I'm trying to find it, where she talks about how she's just trying to protect their borders. Oh yeah, protecting our boundaries is a primary driving force behind the incorporation effort. Yeah,
build a wall, lady.
She would.
So what? So let's connect it here. Why does Hendricks care about the schools? Is it just like?
Well, there's other interests. She's kind of racist.
Okay.
And you can tell from her investment patterns, she's fostering what she calls innovation in Beloit, but it doesn't really employ the people of Beloit.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a huge stake in the Beloit Country Club, which is in town of Beloit.
Okay.
And the city's notionally encroaching on those lands and could, annex, things like that.
Okay, I see.
And the other huge thing is that we have a power plant on the Rock River here in Rock County.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently it's in town of Beloit, but they're going to be bringing a second plant online, which would notionally double the amount of revenue that the state and county would incur. But, it's... Where does she say? She goes on tries to defend it. Oh yeah, here it is. Much has been made of the revenue sharing from the Alliance Energy plant expansion. Yes, the increased revenues to the town new village would be more than welcome. It would be irresponsible and a dereliction if the board did not move to protect the revenues prescribed by the state. City and county officials who accuse the town of being, quote, only in it for the money, unquote, should take a good hard look at their own motives. Any claims that budget cuts and or service reductions as a result of our incorporation have absolutely no basis in fact. The town board has offered to delay the 1/3 to 2/3 revenue shift until after the second plant is operational, thereby ensuring the county will receive no less, in fact an increase, than the same tax revenue they receive today. There it is. Did you follow that?
No, re-explain it to me. So as soon as we start talking money, I always lose.
So by virtue of their incorporation, they would be entitled to a larger share of the tax revenues of the Alliance Energy plant, which right now apparently the lion's share goes to the county. And she's saying, "Oh, we'll generously allow you to get slightly more than you're getting now when the plant doubles its capacity." See, we're generous.
So what was the talk about the cut in services? What is that? That's where I lost it.
Well, because the county would lose
the
lose
county's
a lot of the revenue.
Cut in services, not
right. It would almost be forced to because of this loss in projected revenue.
Oh yeah. Man, damn, oh damn. And then of course that would be more money. That would be so if they had their own schools. Do they have their own schools now?
Turner, I think, is in the town of Beloit, but I'm pretty sure that the kids from Beloit can go there now.
Okay. So then if they incorporated, had their own schools, they, and not just school, but, there'd be more revenue per person coming back to the people of the town of Beloit that notionally would not be going to the rest of Rock County or the city of Beloit.
Correct.
Per person. Mm-hmm. There you go. There it is. All right. Well, it was a fun little talk of local corruption. Well, I mean, not corruption, but self-serving interests. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to have a lot more of that talk later in the pod, so stay tuned.
Personally, on an ending note, I thought Beloit was better than Alabama, but maybe I was wrong.